Brennan Taylor. It's the end of Cheltenham Festival.
Mm.
You seem to have done pretty well.
Yes.
I have been
Luckily.
watching on from a position of enthusiastic amateur, someone who walked into racing about 4 months ago and has done what?
Walked into it when he met a young entrepreneurial SDR.
Well, entrepreneurial. I don't know what to say about that, but some dickhead I met in the bus stop.
He's now sat in your sofa.
No, he's not starting to say, but yeah, I mean, I tried everything I could to postpone this, to cancel it, whatever he insisted on coming around. So, Cheltenham Festival.
Yes.
You haven't been to Cheltenham Festival before?
I haven't. No. It's definitely on the bucket list. I mean, I was saying to you, like you were saying via Slack, weren't we? It's got to be done. I think the Tuesday, the first race, the Cheltenham Raw. Who heard
Cheltenham
of it?
Raw.
Cheltenham
I
Raw.
heard it.
You heard it, yeah.
I heard it actually
yeah.
every day though, and every single day I heard it.
Every race.
Every single day, every race, and that was just me and you in the office. Trying to watch it without
Trying to watch it. Yeah. I'd have to time my calls and then like for every race and just put one headphone in.
I could always tell when there was a race on because I would look over at you and you'd be looking straight down at the desk, like not at your computer, just straight down at the desk. But so there are many different people. Like one that we both follow people on Twitter, and like one of the tweets beforehand was like, the great thing about the Cheltenham Festival is everyone will say there's so many good young things. I say maybe not good young things, good things on. Everyone's got an opinion basically on the Cheltenham Festival. So you're following. So you're working out your own horses to bet on.
Yes, I am. Yeah, yes.
And you're also following a few other people's tips.
Yes. So obviously there's one guy I always follow who's I mean, you stop following him now. No faith. I have no faith for.
No faith.
But I follow him, and he had a successful Cheltenham Festival. Yes, he's as I mentioned to you earlier. I think he stands out when there's quality racing around. Now I say quality racing. I mean, I'm not sure everyone would know what that means. So I guess quality racing it's divided into classes in theory, which are done via ratings. Which anyway, we're getting a bit too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. So let's come back a bit then. So so when you and I met, it didn't take us long to start talking about match betting, which was something that I'd been into at university and that you discovered at uni as well, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And it's the process of like unlocking free bets from people like Paddy Power Online or Ladbrokes.
Any bookies you can find. I mean, I think there's actually around like 30 or 40 bookies that do this regularly.
It seems to be more every year, actually.
Yeah, there's more and more like coming up. I mean, I wouldn't really trust my money on the website.
Yeah, like Proton Bet or something.
Proton Bet.
No, I usually it's something I looked into in my final year of uni. I read like an article on how easy it was to match bet, and I was like, surely this can't be. Surely it can't be free money. How is this legal? But then once you understand how it works, it's very much like buying a stock low and selling it high with free money, I suppose.
I mean, like how I describe it is you actually are earning your hourly rate almost in the effort it takes to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if you want to discuss the concept of it at all, but like,
I mean, I think you can just Google anyone who's listening to this, if there is anyone at any point in time, you can Google match betting. I don't know if you know this. I wrote a guide on how to do it, and I gave it to a website.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I was, I think, last year at university, with 21 years old, I actually wrote a guide, and I spent a lot of time on this guide. Yeah. And there was a website called Odds Monkey.
Yeah, I know that.
You know the Odds Monkey, yeah. So they basically, I gave this guide to them and I said we should publish this together, and they said no. So what they did was they just like broke the guide down and made it their how-to match betting. So if you go onto oddsmonkey.com and you look at how-to match bet,
you're not claiming that's yours.
What do you mean? I'm not claiming it's mine.
You're claiming it's like that you had a hand in that.
I wrote it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, mate. Okay.
I wrote it.
Okay, yeah. What do you say?
Yeah.
Cool.
This private.
Did you write how to bet? Had the book on how to bet as well? Like,
I collaborated in that. I mean, actually, that's like an allegory of my life. That's an autobiographical novel, How to Bet. So, anyway, you can go and have a look at what odds match betting is. It's only really any use to you if you
just see like Alex Gray crossed out author on the side. Yeah,
most wanted. Alex crossed out the author. You can go and have a look at that. It's only really any use to you if you haven't really really forayed into betting online before. If you have, then every account you've got is one less portion of money that you'll be able to make, isn't it? Because you can only really do it once per account.
I know. I mean, well, like some of them, if you stay with them as loyal customers, they give you like Sky Bet do a Sky Bet Club £5
Yeah.
a week, is it?
Mm.
I think it's a week if you spend £25 betting with them. Obviously, it adds up to almost £1,000 a year in free bets.
£1,000, I suppose it does. Does it?
If I did it 2.5,
£5 a week.
is it
250 quid? That
or is
is.
it £5 a month?
It's £5 a week. 5 times 52 is 250.
Sorry, I was getting my maths all wrong there.
Oh,
Ignore that.
well, for the purposes of this, we're going to ask him his opinion on a lot of maths-related topics. Let's pretend he didn't make that error.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was getting warmed
5
up.
times 52 is 2,500. So anyway, another question for you actually. In Cheltenham Festival, I've seen that a lot of people, Tipsters Online, MLT, was in a syndicate.
Yes.
Have you ever done a syndicate on Colossus Bet or anything like that?
Not on Colossus Bet. I've done a syndicate style for owning a horse, but not for betting.
Oh,
for
yeah,
not
yeah.
for betting. Betting a group.
So what's that like then, owning a horse?
Owning a horse, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend to anyone that has any sort of interest in the sport at all. I actually did something called a lease. It was a 6-month lease on a horse. So I bought a 1% share in a horse for 6 months.
Right.
Which ended up being £25 a month for 6 months. So £150 for the 6 months.
And what was the horse's name?
The horse's name, I will find it for you on my phone right now because I took a photo of it and it ran a few times.
And did it win?
It won twice actually. I think it ran about 4 or 5 times and it won twice. However, I would say this to anyone: the money does not come from the winnings. That is not why you get into it. The money comes from the inside knowledge you get from the trainer, because you get weekly updates on your horse, saying things such as there's a code, right? Because they can't tell you explicitly whether to back it or lay it. So the code is either we're expecting good things,
Yeah, which means the horse has a good chance of
which
winning.
means we're going for this race, or there'll be other days for this horse. They're the two key phrases that like trigger the action of betting or betting against on your horse.
And so for betting against would be going on something like Betfair and literally taking someone else's bet on your horse, which would be in effect betting on every single horse other than your own, basically.
Precisely, yeah.
Yeah, you would profit if your own horse loses, and if you know that your horse has no chance, you can like take somebody else's.
Here we
bet.
go. Kincora Fort. What's it called?
Kincora Fort.
Kincora Fort. There you go.
Did you have any famous jockeys on it, or was it Nicky?
The world famous Wayne Hutchinson.
Wayne Hutchinson.
You know him.
Wayno.
You know
Wayno.
Wayno. You know Wayno.
What? Not Hutchers.
Yeah.
Not Hutchers on your
Yeah.
horse.
I've got my Snapchat stories up here from back in the day. When was this? This is like a certificate. I'll show you. Obviously, you can't see it. It's a podcast.
Yeah.
Which was January 2018.
Wow. You've made that on Microsoft Word.
It's like People of the Week back in primary school.
Yeah. No, I'm a horse owner. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a bit of paint, Microsoft Paint on that. Yeah, look, it was 6-1 winner back in the day.
Excellent. And was this, you had a 6-1 winner for your horse? Was this, did you bet on it that day?
Of course I did.
You did. Did you
I
bet?
lumped on it.
Really? Did you?
I lumped on it.
Did it have? Was it indicative before it ran? Did it say like the horse has got a great chance here?
Oh, without a doubt, it did. Yeah.
Really?
That's what provoked the lump.
That's so interesting. But how do they know? How does an owner know, or a trainer? So for the start, right? There's an owner of the horse that literally owns the horse, rather like you would own a car.
Well, the owner horse doesn't necessarily own all the horse.
Right. Might own a percentage.
The majority percentage, without a doubt.
Okay.
The trainer may own some of it as well.
The trainer may own some of it.
Or it might be like leased out by a syndicate to like people like myself.
People like, yeah, okay, fine. But so the owner owns a horse. Obviously, you don't have the means. Let's say you're the owner. You don't have the means to train the horse, so you give it to a trainer. The trainer is someone like Nicky Henderson,
who has a whole stable set up,
who has a stable, has land, has some acres.
The horse has the knowledge of training horses.
So okay, and then there's the jockey, who like not one horse has the same jockey each time. You book a jockey on a horse for a specific.
The jockey, I describe it like a paid mercenary almost.
Okay.
They just come in and do the job for you.
So can you think of another like an analogy in
Mm.
another sport which would be like that? I
I don't think you can.
no. I'm trying to think. No, okay, maybe you can't. So the jockey may be friends with particular owners or particular
Oh, not friends. I think friends is wrong. I think they have like relationships, so they
business
understand each
relationships.
other.
Okay,
Business relationships. You have like, well, they settle terms that are agreeable for both. Um, maybe such as I take less of a cut if you give me more rides.
right. Okay, I see. Right, fair enough. All right. So the owner owns the horse, the trainer trains the horse, and the jockey rides the horse.
Mm.
So, how would a trainer know that their horse stands a good chance against other horses on that day?
So in that essence, I mean, these people obviously they live and breathe horse racing inside out,
Yeah,
and they've seen these countless times a horse in training for weeks and months. So I mean, there's stuff where a horse may pick up a slight knock, and they just know "Oh, it's not going to run to its potential. And then not only that, they will then tell their jockey not to give it the full
not to
beans,
give it the full beans exactly.
because it's carrying a little knock. It's tender, and let's look after it this race. Let's go through the motions, and like there'll be other days for this horse. Um,
So you're saying to me that in some horse races the jockey has no intention of winning the race,
Precisely. They can never be admitted for sure. It can't be admitted. It can't be like proven. But without a doubt, shadow of a doubt, it happens.
and your comment earlier was to say that the money is not necessarily made on when the horse wins the race, but
Mm.
taking bets on the horse when you know it's going to
Mm.
lose.
Precisely. So that I mean, there's a few jockey and trainers who I'm not saying every time, but who are more likely to be these sort of people where the horse the horse's chances of winning a race will be overhyped, and the money will come for it, only for it to then just flop and come, second to last. Um, and the jockey will give it some ridiculous ride that makes no sense and play it technically completely incorrect, which would be which would be like me riding the horse and doing not knowing what I'm doing and riding it that way. But a guy who makes a living out of it doing that, it just makes no sense.
But he kind of makes it look like he's trying.
Precisely.
Yeah,
So
okay.
for example, one of the in flat racing, for example, like it happens a lot in the weather, like night racing, say Wolverhampton or Chelmsford, or Southall, for example, the other night, a jockey will just come out and go hell for leather from the front, um, with the claim to, oh, we're going to try and make it, we'll try and stretch them out. But what they're doing there is just knackering themselves out and having no chance of winning the race whatsoever. However, in play odds and in running odds will have them at a shorter price
Immediately when they
because
start,
they're
because
stealing
they're
the
at the
race, and
front.
then
I
money
see.
will start laying it.
Wow, that's so interesting because as someone who's an enthusiastic amateur on the Betfair betting exchanges, you can put in a an amount of money that you're willing to take on a bet, a particular price. But if you know that the jockey's going to smash it early on, get right to the front,
Mm.
surely though the market would recognise that as a poor strategy.
Not necessarily, because there are some horses that act best when they do that. And so, for example, there are some horses that the trainer knows that's the best strategy for the horse.
Just to give it the full beam
Give it for
straight
a bit,
away.
and they'll last the distance out.
Right.
However, in the previous races, they'll try and tuck them in behind other horses so that it runs badly, so that its odds go up for this race, where they plan
Yeah.
to come out to from the front. So it'll
Yeah.
be like, for example, 10, 12 to 1, when it really should be maybe like 2 to 1,
Mm.
and then get some money on it at a much greater value than it should be. And even if it loses, they like long term they'll still make money on that whole transaction because they'll
Mm.
repeat the process.
Mm. Yeah, and of course, if it loses, then the odds go up next time, don't they? So,
Exactly.
so if you and I have a horse and we
Mm.
want to get maximum money out of this horse,
Mm.
we train it to let's say we train it to a point where it's not really good enough to win a race,
Mm.
but we put a load of rumours around that it is good enough to win the race. We get a half decent jockey on board, and we tell him, "Not today, mate,"
Mm.
and then
I mean, so in that instance, right? It's so the variables there would be having the horse trained to a certain level. I mean, then we're talking about classes of racing.
yeah,
So classes of races is 1 through 6, and then at class 1 there's something called groups as well.
mm.
So it divides class 1 into like sub tiers. But so the lower the class, the lower the prize money for winning the race. So for example, you never see Franco Dettori, world famous flat jockey on all the adverts and stuff.
Yeah, he's
You
big over here. He's big over here.
you'll never see him anywhere near a Class 6 race.
Right.
Um,
Which would be like a conference premiership
I mean,
conference game.
yeah, it's almost equivalent to riding a horse that people like having like at home.
Right. Okay.
I mean, maybe it's a bit harsh, but like, I mean, compare the horse at home to this racehorse, and then that racehorse to the Class 1 racehorse.
Yeah.
You're talking about the same sort of difference.
Right. Okay. Fine. Um.
So yeah, in that instance, right, so what we were talking about was the owning a horse. You would train it to a certain level. Well, yes, I mean, like, well, a horse's level, it doesn't really necessarily have training. It's more about, in general, it is more about the actual level it possesses through pedigree and talent, raw talent. It would have ability,
Right.
as the term may say. Um, and then it's all about controlling that and making it do what you want it to do. So, for example, a classic move that people do, or that sneaky trainers do, is they would have a horse that is bred for like a mile 2 or a mile 4, which is a mile and a quarter, a mile and a half.
Mm.
And then they would run it in races over 3/4 of a mile to 7/8 of a mile, and then they would run it for 3 races there.
It's like running Usain Bolt over 10K.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I mean, precisely, it would be like running, like Mo Farah over 400 meters.
Right.
Um, equivalents, right? So what they would do is, so the horse is not bred to do its best work there. However, what happens is after 3 races at this level, you get a rating, which determines which class of race you can run in.
Okay. Let's say rather like a pound value on a footballer.
Almost.
But it is universally agreed upon. This
Yeah,
rating.
so
It's not speculative like
no,
a
this
football
rating
game.
is fact almost as it's taken.
Okay. Fine.
So what would happen is this horse would go out. The Mo Farah horse, for example, that is running over too short a distance, can't do its best work.
Yeah.
Would run over a distance not adequate enough for its ability, and it wouldn't perform well. It would come, mid race, end of the race, like in like 7th or 8th position, something like that.
Gotcha. Just to stop you there, the only people that know that this horse is running in a race that is not suitable for it is the trainer and the owner.
Anyone that looks at the pedigree can know that.
Okay, but the general public don't know that.
I mean, the majority of the people who see the listing would see good quality trainer, decent enough jockey on board, and you should have a decent chance.
Right. But it's coming up 6th, 4th, 8th, 2nd,
yeah,
etc.
Or even worse, you see like 10th plus, like, and in the form, when you see a 0, it means 10th or greater.
Right. Okay. I see. And so then you run Mo Farah over the 5K.
Chuck him into his right distance.
Okay, and after 4 or 5 losses, his odds are 20-1 or 5.
So what happens is after 3 losses, you then get a rating. Is what I was saying to you. So at that point, you get a rating, which means that your horse is therefore officially labelled as being this good.
Yeah.
However, everyone knows affiliated with the horse that it's actually better than that rating. So it then gets pitched up into a higher distance, but into a longer distance race, but at the same level it's running at.
So it's against other sort of dirge horses.
However, these horses are not the ones like this. These are the horses that their ceiling of ability is exactly where they are now.
Yeah.
However, the horse that you have, the horse that you own in this scenario,
yeah,
its ceiling ability is greater than this.
It's much greater. So it's like playing. It's like playing. I don't know.
It's like playing with two left feet.
Yeah.
And then put like 2 left boots and put a right boot on afterwards.
Gotcha. That's very sneaky, isn't it?
Sneaky, yes. So this will come to it later, probably, I guess. But like, so what happens there is, so for this race now, this thing is now much greater odds than it should be for this level of race. And it gets maybe like 20-1. It'd be double digits to 1 money. And what will happen is you'll quickly see that people pick up on this. So straight away, the market will show that anyone who's got a sharp eye will notice this jockey / trainer combo, the horse, the pedigree, the track, all these sort of variables that are commonplace, and they're a pattern you see after years and years and years.
Yeah.
all of these come together, and then the market will open at say 20 to 1, and the price will quickly
Get
plummet,
hammered.
and it'll plummet because people are backing it, are backing it, and therefore the bookies have to shorten the price to be able to offset the potential losses.
Yeah.
So quickly you see this thing go to favourite
So
overnight before the race.
Gotcha. So indeed, people like, okay, this is making a lot more sense to me now, actually. So people like yourself, you can see stuff like this. People who read form and whatever, they know who the do they. For example, if you were looking at a horse, do you need to know who the horse's mother and father were?
In this instance, you would do, yes.
Okay.
The less the horses run, the more important the mother and father are in
Gotcha.
terms of predicting its
in terms of giving you knowledge as to what the horse's potential is and how
ability
far it
is.
should
Yeah.
run. I see. Okay, fine. I see. That's interesting. So, whenever I've looked at a horse and I think, well, I'm getting 7-2 on this horse, which is 3.5 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? No, it's 4.5 to 1.
It's 4.5 decimal, 3.5 to 1.
4.5 decimal, yeah. And then I'm looking at the history, and I'm thinking, someone got this at 13 to 1. So those are people who are deeply in the know, probably. The connections of the horse, maybe.
Potentially, or potentially just
eagle-eyed punters.
Yeah, these sort of people who are like who because the race is the completed race list is announced the day before the market opens.
Right.
They will then flag these horses up 2 days, 3 days before the actual the market opens, circle them and saying, oh, if this comes out at a good price, I'm going to target this.
If this comes out at a good price, so there is an element of to make money in racing, you're really trying to estimate the chances the horse has, and so you say, okay, this has got a 20% chance of winning this. That equates to 1 in 5. If the price is longer than 1 in 5, I'll back it.
So if the price is greater than 4 to 1, you back it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not about recognizing which horse has been run on the wrong length, and then when it runs on the right length, backing it. It's about only then backing it if the price is agreeable.
Precisely. I mean, that is one approach. I mean, the other approach is what you said the first time, which is people just back the things they think will win, irrelevant of the price.
Right. Okay. But that seems like a short-term strategy, really.
Yes. The long-term strategy is what they call value. The term is just chucked around all over the industry. Is getting the value, is getting the price that is greater than the chance, the theoretical percentage chance of winning.
And to do that, you must have to know more than the bookie.
To do that, you must have to know more than the bookie.
Because the price the bookie gives you contains within it all of the knowledge the bookie has.
The price is driven by the exchange.
Right. Okay.
The bookie is not. The bookies say that, like, the classic bookie back in the old time would use their knowledge to create a price.
Right.
However, now everything is linked to the exchange, which is me and people like yourself, like backing and laying.
Like Betfair, for example,
like Betfair
or
Exchange,
SmartKits, yeah.
and the meeting point happens where we agree. So it's us as punters saying where the market price should be, and the bookies just take a percentage of that and offer it a bit less.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Okay. So it always surprised me. Off topic, it always surprised me just how many people there are on Betfair willing to take bets. Like, it's not something none of my friends I speak to know anything about this world.
No.
Who are these people?
These people are the ones taking bets. This is the thing I think about as well, actually. The ones making the bets are the traders, are the arbitrage, like sharks almost.
Yeah, day traders almost.
Yes, yeah, day traders. I mean, it is day trading for sure. The ones laying it, that's the question. Like,
who are these people?
I can't give you a persona. I've been doing this for years now. I can't give you a persona. And I can't see a thinking behind it either.
No, I mean there must be some cash in it. So, just to reiterate, someone who's laying a bet is becoming a bookmaker, taking someone else's money on it, and then paying out if the eventuality happens. I.e., Brendan wants to back Liverpool at 2 to 1. Okay, he bets it with me. I'll take his money and I'll take his £10. I'll give him 30 quid if it comes in, which is £20 plus his 10. But
on that note, this is exactly how a bookmaker at a live horse racing meeting makes their money.
Mm.
So when you s- when you say to like me the punter say to you the bookmaker standing at the stall, you're offering me even like 2-1 on the horse, right?
Mm.
I'm saying to you it will win. You're saying it won't win at 2-1. Then what you do with the money with a temp, like say I give you £10 on 2-1. If I win, you pay me 30, right?
Yeah.
What you do is you then take that 2-1 and you then say you're saying to me it won't win. You then say it will win on the
Someone who gives you larger
on
than
the
2 to 1
exchange for
odds.
greater odds,
Yeah.
and you will take, for example, 3.5, which is 5-2,
Yeah.
and then no matter what the outcome is, if the horse wins, you get paid out 35 of my tenner, but you give me 30, which means you
Yeah.
make £5 in the whole transaction for risk free,
Risk free.
which is exactly how bookmakers working at the actual track, which is why you will see a bloke on the front shouting out the prices of odds and confirming the bet values,
Yeah.
and a geezer behind in the back over a little like canopy typing on a computer. All he's got there is Betfair Exchange open, just laying, just backing what the bloke in front's laying and what you're
Yeah.
backing. That's what's
Exactly.
happening.
Wow. So yeah, it's they are simply making a percentage, the percentage difference between the odds they offer you and the odds they get themselves.
Mm. And by the way, the genius in this is being Betfair, who could charge commission on every transaction.
Yeah.
They charge up to 5% commission on every
They
transaction,
charge me 5% commission. Yeah.
which is just absolute genius.
It is, isn't it? I mean, aside from this, you see, like we both work for a company that's tech focused and whatever. One of the big, one of the big trends that we often hear about is the platformization of things like Airbnb, for example. They don't actually offer any accommodation. They simply just connect you with other people who are offering the accommodation.
Mm.
What else would you say? Uber, they don't actually
Mm.
offer rides. They are connect you with someone else that offers rides.
Mm.
Betfair, in many ways, connects you with someone willing to take your bet.
Exactly what it is, yeah.
They don't have any risk.
They don't have any
Nothing.
risk, no. That's pure profit they're making.
It's pure profit. It's the Airbnb of the gambling world.
Precisely.
Yeah. It's clever, isn't it?
The middleman always makes money.
Yeah. So there's Betfair. There's a company called Smarkets, the American Smarkets. I actually tried to go.
DAC Bet, the purple DAC.
DAC Bet, yeah. Bet DAC, isn't it? Bet DAC.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
But there's also, is there not also a Ladbrokes Exchange?
I've heard of this. I haven't actually seen it yet myself.
I've seen it a while, many moons ago when I was match betting. I actually tried to go and work for Smarkets. There's a fun tip for you.
That's cool, actually. I never heard of that.
And they offered me a job of a customer service representative, and I would have to be there. I would be the one that you would live chat to when you think horse racing's fixed and you want your money back.
Ruby Walsh.
Oh, Ruby's fallen again.
Yeah.
Just
At the final fence, crook. He's a crook.
Exactly.
As you look around, you like 10 pints of Stella tins like on the floor.
Exactly. So I didn't get that job, as you might be able to tell, and they never told me why, actually. But then I don't think there's a whole lot of money in it for people at the lower end anyway. So
on that, actually, a side note on that, there are companies that do. I've heard of people that have companies that do betting as an industry, like as they would have like an equivalent like a BDR, like what I do, working and generating edges on bets and trading on bets. So follow like almost like a stock trader. So like exchange betting is exactly like stock trading.
yes, exactly.
However, the stock trading has no end game. Betting trading has an end game, which is the difference. So once the event starts, the market is void. It's null.
In what? In betting?
In betting, but in stock trading, the market
The
goes on
market
forever.
never stops. Exactly. Yeah.
However, in betting, it does.
And so you're expecting larger returns because it's much more risk in horse racing than there is in backing VW, for example.
Exactly, for anything, yeah, exactly, precisely. So what I'm saying is that there's companies set up in London. I know for example, there's a few companies that set up in London.
Yeah.
that they trade as a company. So they would get a smart individual who does trading, and basically bankroll them to trade.
Gotcha. In the same way that HSBC would on, for example, lumber.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So they would go, okay, Brendan, here's £500,000.
Yeah.
Cheltenham this week. We know that certain horses are fancied more than others, and we know that generally like a horse that is favourite.
Mm.
Not always, but sometimes the odds will shorten before.
Mm.
So back your money, place lots and lots of bets on it, and then lay it off straight away when the price shortens.
Precisely, and just make that small edge.
Yeah,
And if you make a small edge at a large volume, you make a decent volume.
exactly. A small edge at a large volume. That's it, isn't it? So the difference about whether or not you put £100 on a 2-to-1 horse
Mm.
or £5 on a 40-to-1 horse.
Mm.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
And what's funny is as well is how the bookmakers offer so short odds horses like even money horses or odds on favourites. The odds of the bookmaker are always very close to the exchange value odds.
Yeah.
Have a long shot, a 33-to-1 shot with the bookmakers would be around 60 or 70 on the exchange.
Wow.
And in talking
Silly
hundreds,
money over there.
hundreds to one on the bookmakers would be about 500 to 1, 1,000 to 1 on the exchange.
So that's where they're making the big money.
Oh, I guess in theory there would be, yes.
Well, I suppose they're taking less bets on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So
I remember my point to that. My point to that was how things that will not happen are always undervalued. So like the things that are less likely to happen are always undervalued.
right, so a horse that is 500 to 1 will actually win 1 in 400 times as opposed to 1 in 500.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly my point. Yes.
Yeah. And that's we I think that's just there's I've got psychology books on this thing. I think that's there's a
You definitely mentioned it before to me in the past.
Yeah, we tend to underestimate things we can't really imagine happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely.
For
example, Leicester winning the Premier League.
Leicester winning the Premier League. Yeah.
Trump getting elected.
Brexit
happening.
Yeah.
Like what was it? Leicester was 5,000 to 1. Leicester.
Someone did have 5,000 to 1.
They did.
Yeah,
it was
cashed out, didn't he?
It happened. No, yeah, it happened. And like that should never, ever anywhere near be that 5,000 to 1.
No. Exactly. That's a great example.
There's 20 teams in the Premier League.
That's a great example. Yeah. But
no matter how you skew it, you can't be 5,000 to 1. 5,000 to 1, like me on my own could be 5,000 to 1.
No, come on. Like
I mean, maybe like 300 to 1, maybe.
An amateur team might be 5,000 to 1.
Precisely.
So in 5,000 years, they would win it once. That's
Precisely,
exactly
like
saying,
the Premier League's only been around for like 20 years.
Yeah.
No, there's just no way that. And like since then, the like the outsiders in the Premier League, look at the start of the season, they're only like about 500 to 1 now maximum.
Really?
Bookmakers just shat themselves about this.
Rightly so. Jamie Vardy's having a party. So, someone who, not unlike myself, in November last year, is thinking about trying to make some money off horse racing. Thinking about they don't really want to lose more than sort of £500 on this. They want some fun. They maybe want to go to a race meet every now and again. What advice would you give them then, as someone who is, in my experience, you know a lot more than the average punter? What advice would you give me if I was thinking about getting into this?
So you have a £500 and you say you want to. I mean, what is the goal? The goal is to make money or to enjoy it?
Both, I think. Is it one of those things where you can only choose one of them?
No, I for sure would say you can do both without a doubt. So, for example, one of the things that I never took advantage of really when I had my lease of my horse, was the perks came with it.
The what? Sorry, the perks.
I could go and watch my horse in the winners in the private owner's stand because I was technically an owner.
Yeah.
So I could go and get free food, free drinks and free alcohol, and then if it won, I could go stand in the winners' enclosure, and take a photo with it like a gormless idiot.
Yeah.
Like 20 pints deep.
Like 20 pints deep. No, like an OG, mate. You're there.
Exactly.
What is it? Willie Mullins is there. Paul Nicholls is there.
Willie Mullins would be nowhere near the horse I owned. He'd be like, "What is this riffraff?"
His car might have broken down on the way to the real horse racing meet, and he's just come in and go, anyone got a jump?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So back to your question, which was, if you had £500, what advice would I have? The advice I'd have is to make your £500 last. Is to set up a betting strategy as quickly as possible. And now there are many ways of doing this, but there are two that probably stand out the most. And the two that stand out the most would be something called a fixed point betting strategy, and something which I use personally, which is a like adjustable or compounding point bet strategy. So the fixed point betting strategy, as it sounds, would be you have a say £500 in the bankroll. You would divide it up into 100 separate bets, 100 points.
100 points. So every point will be a fiver.
Everyone will be a fiver, precisely. So this is how you equate bets and how you would manage your level of confidence on said bets. So for something you would think is a nailed-on winner, you would bet maybe 3 points or 4 points or 5 points even. But you would never really go over 5 points. That's 5% of your whole bankroll.
Right. Okay.
And things that you think have a chance of winning, but you don't really want to commit to too much, you'd bet maybe 1 or 2 points too.
The 1 or 2. So okay, fine. So you are. I think key in this process is having an amount of money in your mind at the start of the process, which you are absolutely willing to kiss goodbye to as part of this.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely. Once that money is separated, it's separated. It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
And the hard thing is for anyone starting out is for sure, as yourself has experienced, and myself as well when I first started out, is that how the emotional effect it has on you is losing that money and seeing it disappear into nothingness, just through like doing nothing wrong. Like
exactly,
you're doing the process you think is correct, and you see money evaporate.
You really get a sense of how the level of mastery one has over one's emotions when you've had 8 losing horses in a row. And you're being asked the next day to just put as much money on again, and you've seen your bankroll go from, let's say, £500 to 200, and he's asking you to put another £100 worth of bets on, and it's like,
so in that instance, that is essentially the issue with fixed point betting strategy, which is where your level of risk does not adjust to the money you have. You have 100 bets, and if you lose 100 bets in a row,
that's it, you're done.
Yeah, you're 100 bets in a row. Yeah, if you lose 100 bets in a certain span, you're done.
Right. And so when you say fixed point betting, it's like if you start off with £100 and let's say £500 and you lose 200 of it, a point is still worth £5.
Precisely, because it's fixed.
You've just now got 60 points as opposed to 100.
And the whole argument with it is to say, oh, you win back at the same rate you lost money.
Yes.
Which is fine. Which is you can understand that point. However, the downfall is if you have a losing strategy of or a strategy that has a blip in its performance.
Yeah.
Obviously a large scale blip of 100 points. But if your net 100 points loss, you're skint.
That's it. You're done.
Done.
So I suppose you can. So in making a fixed point betting strategy, you're making the bet that you will never be net 100 points down because
Precisely.
that's it. You're done.
That's exactly what you're saying. Yes.
Exactly. And I never actually thought of it like that because the other way of doing it is variable points. So however much money you have in the bank, you always have 100 points. So if you have got £500 and you lose half of it, then you've got £250. You haven't got 50 points anymore. You've still got 100 points. It's just now 1 point is worth £2.50.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what happens there is you get exponential. You would get to the power E gains and losses.
Right.
So if your net's 100 points, I did example when I first started out, and I taught my uncles about this and my family about this.
You taught your uncles?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I struggled to teach them.
Yeah, I can imagine trying to explain match betting to someone. They think you're a crook. I can imagine if you're explaining a variable points betting system to your family.
Yeah, precisely.
And horse racing.
Yeah, I got some looks.
How old are you at the time?
18, 19.
Oh,
yeah.
mate.
Got some looks for sure. They were like, "Who's this fucking wet behind the ears geezer?"
He's got some mates who've taken him to a pub.
Yeah.
Too early.
He's seen a few horses run around, and he thinks he's a guru. So no, like what I would say.
It's a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
So with the variable points betting is what happens is the variable points betting I think affects you a lot more emotionally because when you have those consistent winning days back to back to back to back winning
Yeah,
days,
yeah, accelerates.
you get I mean, you're looking at almost vertical increase. If you looked at it in the graph,
Yeah,
it's almost vertical, the increase in money you have.
yeah,
To the point, and I use the example a lot with you actually, and to anyone I start off with, when I did my first, looking back at my first 2 years of horse racing betting, I had all the data, all the points, things that actually happened, that's actually occurred.
yeah.
If I had gone for a fixed rate, I started off with £500, £500 just like the example.
500 quid, yeah.
If I continued and used a fixed point betting summary, I think I would have had about maybe 6 grand after 2 years.
Yeah.
However,
So
using
you've got 12 times multiplier
um,
for 500 quid to 6
I
grand,
think it would have been around that, yeah.
which is
Uh,
not bad after 2 years.
which is what, 600 points, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, it's 6 times your money. Yeah.
600 points is what I had.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's about exactly right then. So
Well, no,
that's
hang on a second. 3 grand. That would have been 3 grand, wouldn't it?
okay. Yes, I mean yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I meant sorry, 3 grand.
Trebling your money each year.
300 points. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh no, that's not. I made about 1,000 points each year, roughly.
So you would
5 grand each. So about 10 grand.
okay,
total.
fine. All right,
I
fine.
would have been about 10 grand. Okay.
So you
there we go.
started with 5 grand. You started with 500 quid.
Yes.
And at the end of year 1 you had,
In theory,
in theory,
if I did a fixed point, I would have had 1,000 points, which would have been 5 grand.
5 grand. So you 10 times your money
Yes.
in the first year
Yes.
if you'd have done fixed
Yes.
points. Okay.
And then
But you
second
didn't.
year,
You did variable points.
I did variable points. However, I also used that money to fund a lot of things in my life.
Yeah.
Bills, it seriously came up, holidays, whatever. I spent it. However, if I didn't touch that money, if I left it in there like an ISA almost, obviously a ridiculously exponential ISA, but I couldn't touch it, the actual sum would have actually come out to £3 million after 2 years.
Because that money, the value of a point would have kept going up and up and up and accelerating, and you would have eventually been betting like 50, 60 pounds per point as opposed to £2.50.
I mean, if you think about the point of where you're betting thousands of points, actually. In fact, when you're up at that high level,
Thousands of points or thousands of pounds?
thousands of pounds a point, tens of thousands of pounds a point.
Oh, I see.
When you're at the 3 million mark.
Wow, that's
I
crazy.
mean, that wouldn't have happened. Your accounts would be banned way before then, and you'd have no ability to bet anywhere.
But you could have done it on the exchange. In theory.
Essentially, however, the winnings would have been less due to the system I was using.
Wow. 3 million, eh?
In theory, yeah, in theory, it is theory. Like it
yeah. Make no mistake, it's theory.
account for maybe a 20% difference in human error.
Yeah. yeah.
Drunk betting.
Drunk betting, yeah.
Getting the wrong odds.
Yeah. A delay on the bus on the way home.
Yeah, there's so many variables to it. Like if you were robotic and like stuck got the numbers that were there, yeah, the numbers would have been like 3. I said 3 minutes. It's and that to me, like visually gave me the proof that how good, how much smarter it was to do variable, like compounding style betting, due to the fact that the exact thing you were betting on was the exact same risk.
Okay, fine. So, okay, I get it. So I've got my 500 quid. I've divided it up into 100 points. I've got £5 a point. How do I know what horse to bet on?
Okay, so now this is where there is
whole communities.
I guess there's 2 schools of thought again in this. I'd say a school of thought is the analytical side of it, purely data driven, which is purely form, purely breeding, and it goes into the depths of such as things of like stride length, stride per minute, stride per furlong. We're talking very minute levels of like detail here, very granular data.
And this would need to be almost a full-time job to undertake that level of analysis.
It would be. I mean, I'm not sure it's been covered in like a dedicated horse racing channels, like TV channels, like Sky Racing, for example, or like Racing UK. I'm not sure these people would cover this in that detail. I don't have the subscription, so I couldn't tell you for sure.
Stride length, even as detailed as stride length.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Wow.
And then like obviously stride length and stride per minute, so you combine the two and you get like distance per time, don't you?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you've got the one school of thought which says
Mm.
conduct an analysis, conduct a deep analysis, and try and make some money at the
Mm.
margins. The other school of thought is what?
The other sort of thought is something that I would personally like to agree with, and I use personally myself, is the human logic side of understanding what's going on.
Okay.
For example, a base example would be a a top jockey, a top expensive jockey going to a certain race course for only one race that day.
Mm.
Um, like in that instance, his time is valuable. He's an expensive jockey.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to turn up. He doesn't need to turn up to get his living. He's just happily financially where he is. So the question is, why is he going there? Why is he traveling X amount of miles to get to this place
Mm.
to do one race, which will take about 15, 20 minutes total, and then go home? Why would he be doing that?
Yeah.
And the answer logically, I would assume is, well, he's going there for a reason, which is the reason is he's probably going to win.
He knows that he's going to. He knows that there's a good chance he'll win on this horse. Therefore, he's travelled from Nottingham up to York,
Hmm.
or he's come down all the way. He's come from Oxford or
To Surrey, something like that,
to
yeah.
Surrey,
To
exactly.
Sandown, to Linkfield.
And he stayed there all day for one race
Hmm.
because he knows that this is a
Or
good thing.
precisely, even like an even better example would be there's jockeys that would go to a meeting, say for example, somewhere like Sandown in Surrey,
Right.
um, and they would have maybe 5 rides booked there. So maybe like 5 out of the 6 races they got a ride in each race. Okay.
A jockey would partake in 5 of the 6
Yes,
rides
exactly.
that day.
However, they
Okay.
would also have one ride in the evening at Goodwood, which
Okay.
is which
Oh,
is
I
which is like
see.
30 miles away, 40 miles
So
away.
he'd have to get in the car and drive.
So he'd have to finish his day of racing at his day of work at Sandown.
Yeah.
We'd have to then stay later and go to a race. And like what tells here, I think personally, is how late the race is as well. Like if it's the last race of the night and you see a top jockey coming from a different course just for this last race of the night, like he just turned up at the end here
Yeah.
for a little cameo. It's not just a cameo, like
No.
because they're paid on percentage of winnings.
What percentage do they get, the jockeys?
I think roughly, I believe, this could be completely incorrect. I believe it's around 10 to 20%
Okay.
of the winnings, and I believe the owner would get around 50%, and the trainer would get 30%,
Okay. And then the yard
roughly.
staff, the other 20 or so.
Obviously,
Yeah.
that's all interchangeable, I think.
Wow. Okay. I mean, it's all obviously negotiable, but so I see what I see. Okay. So there's the trainer and the owner and etc. Mainly the trainer will know beforehand this horse is a good thing. This
Mm.
horse has a great chance of winning. We'll get a jockey on it that we can trust. Is that what they go for? A trustworthy jockey, or
It would be a trustworthy. So, like, especially in flat racing, things happen so fast that the instinct is the skill. So having the ability to position the horse in the right place at the right time is like instinct. However, also the ability to have the horse expend as little amount of energy as possible as late into the race as it can.
right?
Because if you think about like the horse's amount of energy as like a petrol tank, if a horse uses up all its petrol or most of its petrol to get to halfway,
Yeah.
it's going to stumble over the line, on fumes.
Yeah.
However, if vice versa, if a horse gets to halfway using 3/4 of its energy, it can then go a hell of a leather on the last half.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's almost like you've got one power up boost. When do you
Mm.
use it?
Mm.
And the size of the power up boost will be determined by the size.
Which is
By,
precisely if you
each horse has a different size power up boost.
rough, yeah, it maybe, yeah. I mean, there are some horses that find little when they put under pressure, and there are some horses that have to be put under pressure a long way out to deliver their goods.
Okay, so you also want a jockey that knows the horse.
Well, yes, but the trainer knows the horse.
Okay, so the trainer gives the
The,
jockey
the train
advice.
it gives them instructions. Yeah,
I
if the
see.
jockey, unless the jockey rides his horse every day inside out and knows him inside out, jockey knows the jockey knows what he's doing. But if like for example, I'm a medium-sized trainer, and I say, oh, I've got this horse that I've got him prepped for this race. The race is weak compared to what I should be. Like my horse should stand out here and win this. I want to make sure I win this. Let me go get some big honcho rider who will take a bigger cut or a bigger fee to ride this. But like
Yeah.
I'm more confident it'll win, so I get more money in my trainer winnings. Um, at this point, this jockey has no idea what this horse does, how it works. It will see that video and stuff, and it will understand. However, the trainer will say to him, "Hey, ride him this way. Like ride him quietly, or ride him like from the front. Get aggressive with him, stretch him out from the front. He stays this distance really well. Like stretch him out."
So there are certain in like games of chess, you'd have certain openings. There are certain ways to ride a horse.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Okay, and so you would get a good jockey. Why over? Because if you're instructing the jockey, surely just a jockey who can listen to instructions is good enough.
So in this instance, like you would say yes, if so in your point there, you're equating the level of influence they can have on the horse to be the same,
Right.
which is not true.
Okay.
To my point earlier, where a good jockey can have a horse save energy.
Save energy.
A good jockey can have the horse in a better position. A good jockey can produce more output from a horse when it comes down to crunch time.
Right. They can make differences at the margins.
Which is all it is.
Okay, I see. Okay, fine. So we've got a good. You and I have got a horse. We want this horse to win. We think it can win. We've got a good jockey on board. Why, when we can just run the horse, run like a dead horse in a shit race and lay it off for anything that we can get? Why, when we've got a what would you say? If we've got a shit horse in a shit race that's not going to win, we know it's not going to win. We've got a potentially untapped, unlimited fund reserve on the exchange. We can just take as many bets on it as possible, knowing we don't have to pay out. Why would we want it to win?
So, in that instance, I mean, your point there of it being unlimited, like it's not unlimited.
Okay, fine, but all right.
That's one point. The other point is, why would you want it to win? Well, because you can back the thing. You can back the fuck out of it. When it's 100 to 1, why the hell would you not back it when you know it's going to win?
But you don't know it's going to win, but you know it's going to lose when it loses. You can control. You can't necessarily make the horse win, but you can make it lose.
So this is what happens completely all the time in lower class racing and lower class handicaps and this, where you just see a horse has come like 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, last 16 races, and somehow it turns up and just wins by like 6 lengths.
Right.
And it's precisely this, where like they've laid it, made money off laying it, and then one day they're like, actually, you know what? This race is it's like 60 to 1. It's like 80 to 1. It's 100 to 1.
Yeah.
Let's
have a grand on it. Yeah.
Just back
100 grand. Yeah. Fair enough. I see. So as soon as the price reaches a point where it's agreeable.
And it's cyclical. It's cyclical. Like, this is what they do. This is why there's trainers that make their living out.
What did you say? Cynical.
Oh, cyclical. Sorry.
Cyclical.
So there's trainers who just do this, who don't expand and try and get better horses and better grade quality horses, because they're happy just churning this machine out of just win a race, the rating goes up, make it lose until its rating goes down, and then when it's got a low enough weight on its back where it should win again, just let it win again.
Wow, yeah.
And you just go up and up and up and down, 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 and up and down, 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 down. That's what you do.
Cynical, isn't it?
Cynical and cyclical, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's a. So when I'm looking at a tip that is sent out from someone on Twitter, and it's a horse that's come 9, 12, didn't finish, pulled up, hasn't run this year, and it's backed, I should assume that there's some insider knowledge there.
So in this instance, right, this is almost where people have this thinking and people are looking to create this.
Right.
So sometimes what starts the ball rolling is just someone seeing this and assuming it's the case.
Yeah.
And it's not actually an inside knowledge.
It's a deduction that is incorrect.
Precisely. And then once the ball starts rolling, people like yourself will say, "Oh, money's coming for it.
Yeah.
Therefore, this is true."
Exactly.
And then it gets lower and lower, and then before you know it, the thing's out the back of the telly. You have no idea where it's gone.
Out the back of
Did
the telly.
it even run? You can't even tell. Is
Yeah,
that
out
a
the
shot?
back of the telly. Very good. Yeah. Not even on the freeze frame when it finishes.
Precisely.
Yeah. So can you see yourself staying doing this? Could you ever see yourself not having
It's too interesting not to. I
a
think
few
it is
fancies?
too fascinating. The whole concept of it is fascinating. Um, the puzzle of trying to work out these lower class races is frustrating, and I think I get annoyed at it. However, it also satisfying when you figure it out like a puzzle, like a game. For me personally,
Yeah.
what I enjoy the most is stuff like Cheltenham, Royal Ascot, Glorious Goodwood, um, the York Festival, the Chester Festival. These big festivals where there's big quality racing, and what I would say is that the higher quality racing because of the margins in winning the race are so big. So, like for example, Cheltenham, the winners were getting maybe 180k, 200k for winning the race.
Yeah.
In flat racing, there's horse races that goes to like £1 million for the winner.
Really? Which
Precisely.
festival is that?
So Royal Ascot or stuff in the States. There's
Is it big in the States?
it's massive in the
Racing?
States.
Yeah.
There's something called the Triple Crown, both over here in the UK and in the States. The Triple Crown in the States, I think all three races are worth over $1 million
Wow.
to win. But however, what comes with so that's one side of it. What comes with winning these races is in flat racing. What happens is offspring. So these flat racers will start racing maybe at the age of 2 or 3,
Yeah.
the horses, and maybe they'll run to about their 4 or 5. So they have maybe 2 or 3 seasons where they're like in their peak of like fitness.
Right.
And what they do is they win big races. They prep for big races. They win the big races. And what happens is because they've won these big races and they've won these Grade 1 races and they have something called black type, which is where they win listed races. Therefore they are seen as being almost like godlike figures in the horse racing
Yeah.
industry. So when it comes to offspring, the male horses charge to impregnate female horses per impregnation.
Right. 100 grand?
Yeah, it raises.
Why not?
Yeah, and then when you think that you got a horse doing that maybe once every 2 days a year,
Once every 2 days?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow. That's mad, isn't it?
So for example, if you look at flat racing, there's a horse called Galileo, who you may have recognised the name of.
Is Irish horse?
I think he's Irish. He's trained by Aidan O'Brien. We'll get in the summer. We'll get to it. You'll see a lot more of this. It's jump season now. So in flat racing, yes, Aidan O'Brien, legend. But most of his horses are bred by this horse called Galileo, who is a beast. He's a tank.
Yeah.
And Galileo bred the horse called Frankel, who you may have heard of.
Frankel.
Who's
Yes,
who?
I have.
If you've seen the video,
Dettori's, isn't it? Dettori's horse?
no, Tom Queeley's horse.
Tom,
It was trained by Sir Henry Cecil. But if you've seen the videos of him, you realise you've seen the videos of him on YouTube,
Yeah.
right? You just see him just walking away from people, like just strolling away from them, just killing them. And now he's having offspring come through now that are just monsters.
Really?
And obviously his what happens is he does really well as a performer. His value of like semen is at a great level.
Yeah.
However, once his offspring start doing well as well, his value again therefore
Goes
increases.
up, yeah.
Which is precisely why these at high levels, everyone in the race wants to win the race because they want to have this high value ticket item afterwards.
Yeah.
So what you get is actually a much fairer racing concept where the best win. And when the best win, the puzzle is a lot easier because you can understand the puzzle and you can see the patterns that are occurring and you understand what is going on and what is allowing these horses to win.
Yeah.
Without any human
Yeah.
interaction of fiddling and like tweaking
And the motivations behind it. It's all. It's the same.
it's
old,
pure almost.
It's pure. It's the same motivation as if you work out how people are making their money. If you work out why they're making their money, i.e., sorry, if you work out how they're making their money, i.e., through the breeding stock or whatever, you can work out the methodology of them making their money, and then work backwards and see, okay, actually does make sense for them to the best horse to win this race,
Precisely.
as opposed to
So for Frankel retired with the 14-0 record
14-0. He just run 14 times,
Ran 14 times, run 14 races.
and he won all of them.
Of course.
And he
He did.
just
And
retired.
then why would you stop? Why
Yeah,
would you?
exactly. Like
Why would you continue?
Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather.
All you do is ruin your reputation.
No, exactly. 14-0.
I think about it. I think he ran 2-3 years. That's maybe 7 races a year.
Wow.
Nothing that.
Yeah. Was he a Gold Cup winner?
No.
Oh,
Gold Cup,
flats.
that's
Flats.
jumps.
You
Gold
said
Cup.
flats. Yeah.
He won. What did he win? He won some big races. He won the 2000 Guineas. It was one of the biggest wins as a 3-year-old. And that's one of the most famous ones. He just strode away from them before maybe about a third of the way into the race. You just see him picking up speed, and like just nothing can go with him. What also good about Franco was his like cruising speed was so high.
Yeah.
So he didn't need to find extra gear. Before he got to that point, he already won the race.
Wow.
Which was like it was like us going for a run, and like you sprinting, and me jogging, and us going the same speed. Like, why would I need to go any faster?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then like he was never really tested.
Really?
Never really tested, and he won some massive like races. So for example, I think.
So he was the Usain Bolt of the.
I mean, he was without a doubt, and I mean, there's another horse called Sea of Stars, who was almost an equivalent to him. And Sea of Stars has some great offspring now as well. So I think Enable. I know Cracksman. You know Cracksman?
No.
Cracksman's a big flat horse right now. Offspring of Frankel. Almost won the Derby. And what happened was so when you analyse Frankel's like body type, Frankel's body type as a horse, what made him so good was how much muscle he had around his front legs, and how long his stride was. So what that means is he could power. He can power himself forward, and then with a longer stride, he would then cover more ground per push at a more powerful rate.
Right.
So he's covering more distance
Yeah.
per stride, and he's doing it fast because he's got more power to do it as well. So he's doing what you do quicker and at a better distance and a better rate.
Yeah. Yeah, machine, absolute machine. Did you ever hear of a horse called Big Brown?
I've heard a name actually.
Big Brown.
I've heard a name.
I remember going down a YouTube hole and
Mhm.
like best horses of all time. Big Brown comes out as number 1.
Big
I mean,
Brown.
I have no idea who he is. American horse, I think. So to finish this off, I've got my £500. You've talked to me about my variable betting strategy. So if I win £100, I've got my £500. I divide it up by 100.
Mhm.
Every point is worth £5. If I win £100 on the first day, now every point is worth £6.
Precisely.
Gotcha. Okay, so now I'm interested now in trying to find some horses to back.
What I would add in there is I would probably suggest maybe a £200. I mean a 200
point bank.
Precisely.
Okay, that's risk management. Is it
Precisely,
not?
that's what
Exactly.
it is. Yeah.
Okay, so I got £500. Every point is no longer worth £5. It's actually worth £2.50.
Yes.
And I'm staking between 10 and 15 points of that a day. Would you say?
Potentially, yeah. Potentially. I mean,
okay. You got to do it every day, pretty much.
I mean, yes. So in this instance, right, this is where it comes down to something I'm very fond of, which is the law of large numbers.
Yeah.
Which what it says is that so we're assuming here that what we're doing is profitable. Our strategy is profitable. So
let's hope so. Yeah.
Our choices in the long term will make money, right?
In the long, what does that mean in the long term? You may be going on to this with the law of large numbers.
Long term, well, the long term is as long as you define it.
Okay.
In theory.
Right.
But obviously, short term is days, weeks, months, even to be short term. So maybe years. We're talking long term.
Okay. So what we're saying is, if you right, so if you checked your bank balance today, and you checked your bank balance on what date are we today? The 13th of March. You check your bank balance on the 13th of March 2020. It will have gone up. That's long term.
Yes. However, and also in that there's variance. So what I'm saying here is the true value of what we're choosing to do being correct. But obviously we can't really know that. But we're assuming that our true value of what we're choosing to back, ignoring variance, ignoring anything that can go wrong with our strategy, that is out of our control.
Right.
we're just saying if what we're saying is we're looking at the base level, what we're doing here is making money in essence,
Yeah.
then that is our strategy, right? To make money. So let's say we're doing that.
Okay.
And what the law of large numbers is saying that the more you repeat a certain process at the same level of edge, if you will. So what we're doing is creating an edge here on the bookmakers market.
Yeah.
So let's say we have a 5% edge. So we make 5% every year.
Right.
In
Which is a
theory.
reasonable ROI. I mean, I'm not sure I'd be totally happy with it as a horse racing
No,
thing, but
I mean it's a small example,
yeah,
without
yeah,
a doubt.
yeah, yeah.
However, as an example, right? So we're making 5% our edge in terms of like our value we're generating.
Yeah.
So we're getting better odds compared to chance.
So we're actually getting odds at 105% of what they're actually worth.
Precisely. It's
Yeah.
what we're doing long term.
Yeah.
However, so what we're doing there is the law of the numbers says the more you repeat this action with a certain edge
Yeah.
or a certain statistical value, the more repetition you have, the closer your value will get to the theoretical value.
Okay. Fine.
So if I mean obviously you probably can't see like anyone's seen it, but like if you had a graph and it would be up and down above the line,
Yeah.
the more and more it goes across, the closer and closer it gets to the line.
Okay.
Does that make it?
Yeah. No, I know.
Does that make sense to you?
So I know what you mean here. So so if we are consistently finding horses that are undervalued,
Mm.
they may lose
Mm.
and they may win.
Yes.
But in the long term, the fact that they're undervalued means they're going to win more often than they lose. And when
In terms of outcome, yeah. In terms
exactly,
of like
and
money outcome.
and over the long term, you will make that edge simply because they're undervalued.
Precisely.
And that the law of large numbers it guarantees that outcome somewhat.
Yes, because the law says the more you repeat that, the closer you will get to your true value.
Exactly. So let's say we've got a coin which instead of having a half of chance, a 50% chance heads and tails, it has a 49-51.
Yes.
Over the course of a year, if you flicked it every day for a year, you would see that one side would come up 1% more than the other.
Yeah, so roughly, so you would get like maybe like 190, 160 sort, 170 sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So, but the idea is you've got to find the horses.
But if you did it 10 times, you might get 10, 10, or like 9-1.
Exactly. So that's that's what happens in the short term, is it
Yeah,
not?
exactly.
That you can have an erratic pattern.
So that would be your daily ups and downs, your daily struggles, your weekly struggles. Yeah.
Exactly. But in the long term,
and that's just variance. That's what it's called, variance.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we can get onto the challenges of, and I think maybe that would be a good place to like leave this, the challenges of ups and downs. But before we do that, I don't know anything about horse racing apart from what you've told me today. I don't know where each trainer lives, so I can't put a map on who's traveling where and what and how. It's interesting for you to say that. Absolutely interesting for you to say that. But I'm a punter that's got 500 quid, and I would like a regular supply of good quality tips given to me. I go on Twitter and I look up only racing tips.
Only racing tips. I mean, then you're doing the right thing then, I think.
Right, and that's your Twitter handle. But if you want to actually make money,
yeah.
No. I mean, you were active for a number of years and you were reasonably profitable. But there are, if you go on Twitter, there are a number of people doing this, just giving away tips for free. And that is, you might say, reasonably profitable in the long term.
So the issue I would have with that, and the reason that I started to understand this myself, was because how can you trust what they're doing? Is the key question. How can you trust that what they're doing is purely motivated to try and give you like success? So this is why I forced myself to understand what was going on, and then in a position where I could tip myself.
How can you trust that someone on the internet who's giving you horse racing tips has you at heart, in mind? Okay.
Oh, precisely.
But if I'm a horse racing tipster, and because this is very much like, people during I think it was about, when would it have been? 18 months ago now, not last November, the November before, when Bitcoin went through the roof and it went from $5,000 to about $18,000.
It's about 19,
You
20,000,
you
yeah.
made some money off that, I remember.
I did
told
make
me.
some money off that. You're
So did
right,
I actually. Well, I would have done if I'd have sold, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't make any money off it. But you had people like John McAfee,
John
and,
McAfee,
nutcase. Few other people saying, a few other kind of reputable people. I don't know if Elon Musk was involved, but he was saying like, Bitcoin is going to revolutionize the way we do business. It's going to revolutionize supply chains, etc. You cannot lose by buying this. Now, there's a couple of reasons he might say that. One might be that he actually thinks that is the case, and he's simply saying that to help the cause along of Bitcoin. It also might be that he has already bought Bitcoin, and by him saying that, he's almost his confidence is providing false certainty to investors. So him saying that, I go, well, actually, if Elon Musk has said it, well, maybe I'll buy some. Precisely. I'll buy it. The supply of the global supply of Bitcoin will decrease, therefore driving the price up. I actually think supply and demand is something many people don't understand, and I think horse racing or betting is a great way to explain it, but maybe that's a conversation for another time. Simply less Bitcoin in circulation, price goes up, and the whole thing feeds. It's a feedback loop. The higher the price, the more people buy it. The higher the price, more people buy it. So if I'm a tipster online and I've got a good audience, 15,000 or so, there is one particular tipster online who has this audience and he gives away tips for free. I know you're not a massive fan of him and that I follow him. Now, I might back a horse at 10 to 1, tell everyone that this horse is a good thing. The price shortens to 2 to 1, and then I lay it off and I take everything in the middle, like a bookmaker would.
Risk-free.
Risk-free. No, and you don't pay any tax on gambling either.
Precisely.
So, and to some degree, it doesn't then matter if the horse wins or loses because there's no risk. However, you will lose followers in the long term.
Your reputation is what's on the line.
Your reputation is on the line, exactly. And the long-term strategy would be, of course, let's make as many followers as I can, and every now and again I will throw in a horse, if I'm being cynical. Every now and again I'll throw in a horse that is overpriced.
So in this point, you don't need to do that, because the variance will cover itself out. Like, you'll win some, you'll lose some.
Yeah.
So in this point, as long as you're getting higher odds and then laying it off no matter what.
Exactly.
As said tipster.
Yeah.
You can pick purely. You can pick what you think is a win, because your following will decrease the price.
Hence, he has my best interests at heart.
See that in this question, right? He may have the best interest at heart. However, the question I would ask is, how can you be so sure that he knows what he's talking about all the time, and he can't be clouded, his judgment or his view can't be clouded by anything?
So, but the alternative is to pay somebody for tips and give them an alternative.
No, the alternative is to understand what's going on yourself.
Okay, the alternative is to fine. Okay, fine. If you're lumping it into two different categories of finding your own horses versus paying in some way, either directly or indirectly, someone else to do it, I would agree. Finding your own is much better and probably much more rewarding. But for me, as the casual punter who just wants to make some money on the side, and I want a reputable source of good quality tips that will give me an edge.
All I would say in that point would probably be to diversify your portfolio and to follow maybe 4 or 5 and manage your risk that way.
But then if I'm following 4 or 5 different horse race tipsters, then I have to put 4 or 5 times as many points on, or do I just divide the points by 5?
I would say divide it up. You would make less perhaps daily and like weekly. However, your risk would be so much lower.
Okay, so
because what you're doing here, what's to say? Like, he keeps tipping and he has some mental breakdown and you don't know about it.
Right, but then if I might be in this position where I'm backing 4 or 5 horses per race.
That's irrelevant. It's your total sum per output per day.
But I could be in the situation where
as long as you're still staking your 10 to 15 points a day, like you're the same outlay, same risk.
I know, but if you might be in the position where even if the favourite wins, I lose money. Because I've got 1 point on the favourite, I've got 2 points here and there.
But that doesn't matter, because like you were looking at it per race individually. No, it's per tipster. You would look at it.
I see. Okay, so and this is another great point that you absolutely have to be devoted to the financial, like to keeping a record of everything you've done.
Oh
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
that's
I
absolutely
mean, like,
key,
that's
isn't it?
granted, yeah.
And that in many ways is one of the hardest things to do.
To track it and keep and like and be honest with yourself.
To be honest with yourself, to exactly to provide to audit your life in
In that, yeah, for sure, for sure. And like so what I was saying, like in the instance of following a tipster, um, like as we as you know, I've done it for a long time. I follow this one guy who I've been very very keen on, and like my view in it was he's provided me success, so why would I ever change
Mm,
what I'm doing? Like if it's working, if it's broke, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
yeah,
Is what I've been doing. As since then, he's had like a 3 month blip, and
yeah.
my view in it has changed massively because I think, wow, now how can I trust him to? I mean, he's had 2 3 years of with him, and he's made me a shit ton of money.
This is interesting that you feel like this. I didn't know you felt like this about this particular tipster.
Mm,
The guy's name is Top Racing Tips. We can just say
yeah.
Top Racing Tips. I'm sure he'd thank us for whoever's listening to this.
For
Top Racing Tips. But yeah, go on.
TRT, as he's
TRT.
known,
Yeah.
TRT.
So you now don't trust him. That's interesting.
I mean, how can I?
Wow.
How can I? Like, I'm following him because like this is what I told myself I would do. However, I now find myself checking in everything he tips out in like straight away with my own like backing.
Right.
Um, and what I will say also is to do that in the first place when you're following a tipster, to understand how they think and what they're looking for.
So then you can understand the weaknesses.
And not only that, but you can understand what it is they're looking for. So that you can understand, you can then start and then eventually you can start doing it your own
Mm.
and say, oh well, you know what, this horse has a similar profile to something thingy matey boy tipped last week or yesterday. Why, like this maybe win, put a little five on it, and like check your winnings and like, track it that way, and track your own things on the side.
What occurred to me as you said that to check yourself, it's almost like an assumption I'd made was that how can you beat the bookmaker because you're collecting your own little knowledge, you're collecting your own knowledge, you're looking at online racing posts, etc., reading the papers, reading the form, etc. How can you take on the might of Paddy Power or Betfair, etc. Whereas actually this conversation and previous conversation we've had have cleared up the fact that you aren't beating Paddy Power or Betfair, no matter what analytics they might have behind how to price up a horse racing match. They're actually taking it from the exchange, which is driven by people like you and I. So actually, what you're doing as a horse racing tipster is backing the fact that you've got additional one. If I'm 1%, if I'm 1 or 2% more intelligent than everybody, not everybody else, but the average punter.
So it's a zero sum game.
Yes, it is exactly zero sum game, is it not? Yeah. And so I see. So it's not actually unrealistic for someone to learn a bit about horse racing and then pit their knowledge against Paddy Power and win. Because Paddy Power, you're not actually playing Paddy Power, you're playing the average level of research undertaken by an average horse racing punter.
Precisely.
Who's in a pub that's next door to a corral.
Yeah.
And those guys are the ones driving the price.
In theory, in essence, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and so the final thing then, an advice to an amateur about managing their emotions. This is something that I mean, I had. What did I have? Several mental breakdowns.
It don't work. Yeah, my God, fucking hell.
So I
outrageous.
When you win I've read. There's a book by Nassim Nicholas Taleb called what is it called? It is called. What was it called? You know this. I told you about it. No. It's called. No.
No idea then.
Fooled by Randomness is the book.
Oh, okay.
Fooled by Randomness, and he says that if you put a trader, stock trader, or someone who has investments in a scanner machine or some kind of what is it? MRI scanner. That's it. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. When they lose money, they experience an emotion of negativity, of some instances of anger, of sadness, etc. When you make money, you experience 0.8% of the strength of the emotion you feel when you lose it.
Okay.
So you only ever feel. It's almost like you score a goal, you feel 8 out of 10. You concede a goal, you feel 0 out of 10. If it was like equal, you would feel 2 out of 10 when you concede a goal, but you don't feel 0. So the idea would be, don't look at your investments. that his prescription was get a long-term trading strategy in place. Don't check it. Just don't check it. Just say to yourself, I can check this once a month.
Mm.
And then on average, in the long term, I've only got to be up on 1 or 2 months overall for it to work, for the strategy to be profitable. So I don't have to go through the daily grind of, oh, it's gone down, it's gone up, it's gone down, it's gone up. So you might have, for example, over a 365-day period, if you buy some stocks, you might have 200 days of it being down and 200 days of negative emotion. Only 250. How many days in the year? 254, 256.
365.
What am I talking about? 365. I was multiples of 8. That's what I don't know where I got that from. So you might have 200 days of negativity and 156 days of positivity. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth it? I mean, you might even, in some instances, like the day you had today and the days that I've had, most notably on the 1st of November 2018, I remember last year, we had 57-point day, and you might lose a point a day for 56 days and then have a 57-point day. It's like the money coming in is concentrated. You lose, and then win massively. Are you strong enough to stomach the continual negative emotion, not knowing that the big one's coming,
but
knowing in theory that it might come?
But like, so what that happens is that I feel that experience tells you that it is coming because
Yes.
you live it. Like, so I've lived. So as I was telling you during this period, I was saying, no, it'll come good. It'll come good. It'll happen because I've been there and I've done that cycle countless of times over.
Yes, exactly. But from the point of view of the inexperienced person, someone who's telling you
this could be like this is the end. This is where he finally goes berserk and loses my money.
Exactly. How can I? You can't tell the future. So how do I know that you're right about this?
Exactly. This leads to my point as well with like how can you follow tipsters, because you never know when they're going to go wrong.
You never know when they're going to go wrong. So, and we talked today in some strange way, I suppose, that it's in many ways, if you scale up this analogy, you're left with like an analogy for your own life. Like there will be sometimes elongated periods of negative emotion, negative experience, but you've got to just carry on and know that the good times are going to come. And even I suppose you have to have just faith. And if you're backing horses and you're following a tipster and you begin to question the foundations on which this tipster's making its tips, rather like you might question the foundation of your degree, etc., etc. Your ability to deal with that negative emotion in the long term is something that's learned. You don't just have it. You will go through, speaking from my own experience on horse racing betting, you will go through tens of negative emotion. You'll lose horse races way more often than you win.
Yeah.
Way more often than you win. But the point is you don't have to win that many to be up. Isn't it? You can have one day and it will wipe out a month's worth of losses, and in that way it's almost quite nice. But
what is nice is having 2 days in a month where you wipe out your losses and then you double your winnings.
Of course. But the coping, what would you say, the coping resources you have during the bad times, I didn't really have.
They make you so mentally tough, I would say.
And they make you mentally tough in this regard, right? But does that mental toughness then move along to other parts of your life?
I would say so. I personally, I would say it has for me, like, definitely.
Okay. Like, can you give me an example?
An example? I mean, I'm not sure about that. Like, but what I would say is that having the ability to stomach the visual losses I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So having saved up an amount of money and invested to start off with amount of money that meant something to me, that actually could have affected my life quite a bit, and saying, you know what, I'm going to take this and risk it and put it into this strategy that I believe in and understand and I think will work, and seeing it piss away. And then having to say to myself, no, this is the right move. Continue with what you're doing. You're right in what you're saying here. Like, I would guess the self-belief would come through to that, like,
exactly.
massively.
And the voice is always quieter next time round.
Precisely because we've been through it. We've been through this.
Yeah,
Like,
we've been
what are you
through
getting
it.
worried about? We've done this before.
Exactly. Someone who's won the Premier League won't have as many doubts as someone who hasn't.
Exactly. Precisely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so I guess, yeah, I would say that generates to almost everything. Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
I compare it the toughness in having like in sales, like we're in now, like the constant rejection and constant no's, and like, I mean, what was it, 1 in 4?
Yeah.
Like roughly the conversion rate we have right now. Um, like that whole, all like just having the ability to see things not going your way, but to understand that what you're doing is correct
Yeah.
and believing in it and sticking with it. It's just this metaphor for life, isn't it? Really, it really is.
Exactly. And strangely enough, I was watching a documentary with one of the greatest what would you jump hurdlers?
Jump crooks.
Jump crooks, one of the greatest. No, one of the greatest jockey hurdlers. Would you say hurdles jockey? What's
No,
the
he's a national hunt jockey.
national hunt jockey? Which William
It's
Mullins
jumps, hurdles and
and he said
and fences.
that when you're low on confidence, you tend to play safe. That's the worst thing that a sportsman can do when they're low on confidence. And as I mentioned, we are the 13th of March here. Liverpool are no longer top of the league.
And we're 15th of March, but that's fine.
Are we 15th?
Yeah.
Well, there's only 256 days in my year. So. Liverpool are no longer top of the league. Manchester City are top of the league because Liverpool haven't won the league. They can't necessarily go away to places like who did they?
I mean, no, you missed out the word there. Liverpool are bottle jobs. That's why they can't win the league.
I mean, yeah, they may not be bottle jobs. Liverpool, interestingly, approached the Champions League. In my opinion, they approached the Champions League with a far greater belief than they approached the Premier League. And it's strange because Bayern Munich would potentially win the league in Premier League if they were in the Premier League, and yet we went away from home and smashed them 3-1. Now, we can't go away from home and smash Tottenham 3-1, or we can't go away from home and smash Man United 3-1, but we can go away from home and smash... granted, it's a knockout competition, etc., 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 but Liverpool won the Champions League 5 times, never won the Premier League, and so when it gets...
I mean, you say 5 times. The last time you won it was 2005, which was 15 years ago.
Yeah, but then they got to the final twice since then, 2007, 2018.
Yeah, and what happened there?
Dirk Kuyt, Chris Kirkland,
legends of football.
Yeah. Pepe Reina.
What I would say to that, I think you'd have to look at football as like a technical view, and I'd have to say to that the Liverpool style of football suits Champions League. I would say.
I don't know what that means. Are
you actually being ignorant here?
No, I don't know what you mean. It suits the Champions League.
So the style of because the way they play, right, is something that is unique to the Premier League. How like Liverpool do it probably best in the Premier League.
Well, Man City and Tottenham and Bournemouth do it.
No. I mean, City and Liverpool, I'd say, would be the best at the style of pressing and counter-attacking, controlling the ball and dominating teams. Physically, I'd say energy levels, which is just not seen in Europe. The German league is probably the closest, I would say, to the Premier League in terms of energy levels. The French league is nowhere near. The French league is again nowhere near. Italian league is nowhere near. These are all slow-paced, like technical games.
Right.
And Liverpool's team is now based on power and speed. Don't get me wrong, there is skill in there. Don't get me wrong, of course there is, but like it's based on athleticism. You look at their team, and they're all units. Like you got Firmino up front, who's quick, strong, semi-tall. Like he's an all-round unit.
Yeah.
Mo Salah is quick, agile, nippy. Same with Sadio Mane, who's just absolute pace. In midfield, they got legs. You got Keita, Fabinho.
Not much creativity in midfield, though.
The technical side is lacking. That's what I'm saying. But like what I'm saying to you is that they are just physical specimens, they're units.
Yeah.
Which is just like not seen around. Well, it's seen around, but it's in the other leagues, but not seen around with combined with a high level of ability they possess.
But this is the same for the Premier League. They basically play the same team.
In the Premier League, yeah, no, but like in the Premier League, this is like a given. Like, everyone has this in the Premier League.
Right.
Everyone has this level of like competitiveness, physicalness, brutalness to it.
So you would say English football then is at an advantage in Europe?
No, I wouldn't. Maybe, but I mean, you could say that. Well, 4 of our teams are in the quarterfinals. We're half the quarterfinals. You could say that maybe. But what I would say is that Liverpool and City do it the best because they combine that power and athleticism with skill and technical ability, and City probably do it the best, I'd say, in my opinion, with their style of football.
Ooh.
I mean, there's a reason they're top of the league and you're not.
I won't rise to that, but my initial point here was that Mo Salah looks a shadow of the player he was.
Yeah.
2-3 months ago when he was scoring for fun. I mean, he hasn't actually been at it, I don't think, in 2019. But luckily we've got Sadio Mane to do the job, who is famously not. What did you describe him as? Not top draw.
Not top draw. He is not top draw. He's a very, very good player. He's a good 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 player.
Oh, 9 out of 10 is not top draw.
10 out of 10 top draw.
Who's the 10 out of 10?
I'm talking top draw. I'm talking like game changers, world beaters. I'm talking the people you can name off the top of your head. He's not one of them.
Right.
He's that bracket below. Which you still want him in your team. He's still quality. But he's just not the same level as everyone else.
Right.
In that bracket. And for example, you would say your Figos, your Zidans, your Beckhams, your Giggses, your Vieiras, Henry's, like Drogba's, Ballack's. Like, these people are just like, you just know they can change the game. Yeah. There's so many. I'm not getting anywhere near to the level there's too many people to name in the bracket he's not in.
But what you've named there are absolute Galacticos of the 20th century.
Yeah, and he's not one of them.
20th, 21st century.
And he's not one of them.
What is going on? My sense of time's gone. No, he isn't a Galactico. I will give you that. But he's really only been around for 2 or 3 years. Zidane had a long career.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not slating him. I'm saying he's quality. I'm just not saying he's as good as those.
All right.
And that's not that's what world class is.
Yeah, but I feel like I don't think that's what world class is. That's what elite world class is. Yes, he isn't as good as Messi or Ronaldo or.
Didn't have to mention those. They're a league above that.
Okay, fine. But would you rather have him or Neymar? Mane or Neymar?
I mean,
that's an interesting question because you would regard Neymar to be world class. There it is. I've got him.
I would consider overhyped personally.
Who? Sorry.
I would consider Neymar overhyped.
Okay.
But I guess you in terms of ability to change a match in an instant, you'd have Neymar.
You'd have Neymar over Mane.
Yeah. I mean, how's that even a debate like that? You say it out loud. How can that even be a debate?
Would you have Gareth Bale or Mane?
Bale.
All right, fine. Raheem Sterling or Mane?
Sterling.
You'd have Sterling, really?
Oh,
fair enough. So, the impact of belief on your life.
Yeah, we sidetracked tangent.
By some utter bullshit from Brendan Taylor.
I mean,
live.
You will see this and you will realise how right I will be. and to quote this, I'll put this in actual memorial here.
Right.
One day you'll need Sadio Mane and he will not turn up.
One day. Scored in the Champions League final last year.
Oh, did you win?
I mean, I don't know what that means. Did you?
I mean, what he did is irrelevant.
It isn't irrelevant. So, we lost that game for many reasons. First of which,
Karius being 1, 2, and 3.
Karius was the top 2 reasons we lost it. Salah being wrestled to the floor by a cynical Sergio Ramos.
Oh, jeez.
And Gareth Bale's bicycle kick, which was one of the best goals I've ever seen. It was a great goal, and in that instance,
as Liverpool fans summed up just like that whole little 30-second little comment there.
Why?
Just like deludedness.
Why?
Just like it's like deludedness and like fake humbleness all in one.
Delusion, fake humble delusion. But to square the circle here, Mo Salah doesn't look like the player he was.
Yeah,
he doesn't actually pass as much either. You watch him play.
He's greedy, isn't he? Yeah.
He just, I mean, he's desperately trying to get out of this thing. If only we could get a penalty or something, he could score a goal. He would calm him down a little bit. But he's actually not passing to Sadio Mane, and I suppose Willie Mullins' point is that you shouldn't really, it's very
Ruby
difficult.
Walsh's point.
Sorry.
Ruby Walsh's.
Ruby Walsh. Willie Walsh's point. Ruby Walsh's point is that you shouldn't change who you are. But then, one thing that I've talked to you about recently is Michael Owen's interview with, I think it's It's on YouTube. If you put in Michael Owen interview, it's called the Michael Owen interview, and I think it's an organisation called On the Ball or Off the Ball or Off the Ball maybe, and he talks there about the fact that when he was going on the pitch against Argentina in 1998, how he didn't know anything about Argentina, how he went into that game with such gross levels of arrogance. He said, I didn't even know I'd heard of Batistuta because he was a great player, but I didn't know who I was up against. Just give me the ball. They will be worried about me, was the attitude. And if you don't have that, if you don't have self-belief like Mo Salah at the moment, and if you don't have the belief that eventually your bets will come good, how can you carry on? That's there lies the dilemma. How can you manage the negative emotion? And it's not only managing it, you'll feel much more negative emotion.
Yeah.
And the coping resources you have to manage it. So you have to remind yourself every time, don't worry, this will come good. Trust in the process, as Carlos Santana would say. Our colleague. I reckon we could probably leave it there. You got anything else you want to say?
No, that's a good note to end it. I would for sure sum that up. The amount of times after a downward turn, a bank balance is not where it should be. You look at it and you say, "What the fuck am I doing?"
Yeah. Why
don't I not cash out at said point? And the answer always is
trust the process.
Trust the process. You got to there, you can get further.
Yeah. What am I doing? And the answer is you're experiencing a short-term spike in negativity. Carry on, my son.
Yeah, exactly. Dig deep.
Dig deep, exactly, in the final furlong. Exactly, like Luke Morris.
It's certainly not Luke Morris.
Oh, thank you very much, Brendan.
I enjoyed that,
Yeah.
Nice.